here I feel like a lot of kids are supported and like their parents are in their corner 24/7.
Yeah.
But like coming here and my parents always having to work to bring to the table for everyone, you're kind of more individual.
Yeah.
And that's where the culture aspect of the American culture aspect kicks in, because now we're living that individual life where we have to fend for ourselves, provide for ourselves, and do all that. And don't get me
don't have any opportunity back there, and when you come here, it's almost like a door. You know, you just unlock your door. You know how they say you put your foot in the door? Well, you grow a big, gigantic foot, and you just put that in the door. And that's what I did. You know what I'm saying? See friends back in the day, and he literally came up behind me and he was like, "Do you eat amatoke?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it'd be surprising. It'd be surprising a lot of times.
I was like, hold on, how do you even know about this, sir? And he was like, I have QC friends, and you know, I'll give it up. Bro's name is Tim, but it's cool to see that people are actually connecting on that level. Yeah. You know, it's bridging cultures, you know, and we're so separated here because we always like to generalize and say, oh.
And I think the problem might be the misconceptions that people have about Africans sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first came here, you know,
you couldn't.
What mom or dad says goes, and you can't say anything.
Yeah.
But now, you know, if you disagree, you can say you disagree, and you can talk about why. It's not just
one way.
Yeah, it's not just one way. It's not one route. There's multiple passageways.
Yeah.
And not have emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, you can be 40 years old and not know how to manage your money. So at the end of the day, does your age really gauge your maturity? Not
No, it
necessarily.
doesn't.
It's just how you came up, who you surrounded yourself with, and what you chose to do with what you came up with. So that whole entire thing, I just wish that it would just go away. But you know, that takes time, patience, honestly.
Hi guys, welcome back again to Bridging Cultures. Today is another episode. I got two guests over here and they're going to introduce themselves in a short while. Like usual, I'm your host, Bryke, and I got...
I'm Enoch Moindy.
Ernest Moindy.
All right, and there we go. So I know you guys, we've been knowing each other for roughly, is it 10 years?
Right around there. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure. So yeah. I had to make it down here and speak to y'all and let people interact with you.
It's about time. We like interacting. All kinds of interaction.
Time to get out there.
That's right.
Okay. So I remember I don't think I remember the last time I saw y'all in Kenya.
I don't remember that. Last time I remember was when you came here and we were sitting out on the curb. That's the last time I remember. When you came with Uncle George, I think. Yeah.
Man, I think when y'all was back home, y'all were kids. I was a kid too, so I don't think I remember much per se. But
I mean, shoot, last time we were back in Kenya was 2019, right around there.
Yeah, 2019.
Oh, 2019.
Yeah. Okay. So you know, it's been a long time, but I mean, we're looking to go back soon, hopefully. You know.
Okay.
100%.
We'll go home, say hi to the people down there.
Damn right. You know how it goes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna jump onto the questions now. So,
let's do this.
So, growing up in the United States, how connected did you feel to your African roots?
Well, I mean, growing up, I felt pretty connected. I had my family here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would call on the phone, we'd speak on the phone, and you know, it just helped me remember where I came from. And we'd speak in the language too. So if you're speaking in that language, you ain't gonna forget. And we still had the same food, same everything. But the problem was, when you go to school, when you meet new people, you learn new things, and then you're also taking in your American side as well. So, you know, it's all about who you hang around with and your influences, but definitely makes a big change.
Yeah, when we had first came to America, everything had changed, you know. But it's good that we stayed together as a family because culturally everything stayed the same for me here and for us here. But yeah, as we did branch out and we went to go meet new people, try new things, that's when we had to diverge cultures.
Okay.
In other words, we bridged them together. We brought everybody together. We unified.
All right, I like that. Was there ever a moment when you felt torn between your American identity and your African heritage?
Man, it happens more often than you would. I mean, than I'd like to admit, even, you know, because of course, as an American side, I have American friends, you know, American influences, and you know, in order to survive and thrive here, you do have to bring in a part of that culture with you, and that doesn't mean I've lost my culture. You just got to be open minded, and when you're open minded, you get new opportunities. So I wouldn't necessarily say torn. Maybe at first when you're trying to adjust, but you know, as time goes on, you get real comfortable. And you know how to really balance everything out, and it's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it was just a lot of code switching. You know, you just have to know when to switch from African and switch back to American, you know, because you just have to say the right things at the right time. And you can't. Yeah, some things here aren't culturally accepted, and some things from back home aren't culturally accepted. So
yeah, I've had that challenge too. Sometimes you might find yourself, like, let's say if you came from the house, you were speaking your African language. Yeah. Then you get out there. And the problem is, I think in Kenya we're so used because we speak English, then we can switch it up to Swahili.
Yeah.
So you might find yourself to speaking with somebody, then you find yourself throwing words in between, and you're like, they don't understand this.
Exactly. It's just they just don't understand certain things culturally, and it wouldn't make sense to them. 100%. Some things here that other people do don't make sense to us. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
And also another big thing is the way that you're taught to speak English there, or if you ever get exposed to it, it's completely different to the way that people speak here.
True.
There it sounds like a little bit more, I mean, I'm not saying it's British, but you know what I'm saying? It's more formal English, like, and then over here you get a little bit loose, you get a little more.
Yeah, with throwing in of slangs and so too. Okay. To make it easier.
Right. And the slang is cool because once you learn it, you feel like you belong. But at first, when you're speaking, everybody's just looking at you weird. You know how I go.
Yeah, I know. The British English is so long. Like the sentences are so long when you speak to somebody. It's like they get to a point they're like, okay, that was a long statement for something simple he was gonna ask or tell.
100%,
yeah. So yeah, I've had that challenge too. So I get it. Okay. What are some cultural traditions from your parents' homeland that your family kept alive in America?
For me, it's gonna have to be the language and the music. You know, when we get home, my dad's playing music on the speaker. Yeah. We all get in, we throw some bust some moves on the dance floor, you know. And then my mom's cooking, so we get to dance, use some energy, and then regain it right back with my mom's cooking.
Oh man, you remind me of me back home.
That's right. And let me tell you, Mom, if you're watching this, you are an amazing cook. And by the way, like I said, the music does help. If y'all don't listen to music, I highly recommend it. But at the end of the day, the food, the music, the togetherness. You can't forget the community aspect.
Yeah.
Of, you know, African culture. When you come here, everything's individual. And if you start to become individual, you start to isolate yourself.
For sure.
And when you isolate yourself, that can actually damage your mental health. So just getting out there, being open, and just being you. That's the best part. If you're comfortable with you, and you can do the things that you want to do, not what others want you to do.
Oh yeah. And I think, you guys speaking about your mom cooking while you're like in the living room playing music and all that, it really reminds me of, it's way back in the day, man. When I went to see or visit grandma, we as the kids, we were outside playing. The women, I'm not putting it in the wrong way. It's just, it was culturally back in the day. Like the women would go in the kitchen, they would cook. And I remember one time I went in the kitchen as a kid. I'm considered a man at that point. If you can speak, you can walk, you're considered a man. So I walked in the kitchen. Then my grandma was like, "This is not a place for you. Go and chill out with your grandpa out there." I was like, I felt some type of way, but like growing up now, I kind of understand. So the kitchen was for women. I'm not saying they were forced, because now there's too much talks about it.
It's not that deep.
Yep. So I think that's the concept that I got. The kitchen is for the women. The living room is for the men, and then the kids, they can be in the living room or they can go outside and play. So now I get that family aspect. Yeah, I like that. And y'all make me just miss home for real. I miss home, honestly. Yo.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not about that separation aspect. You know, we're not trying to offend anyone or anything. It's just how it is over there. And when you grow up like that, you just have a different
emulate
mindset.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it helps over here too, because then when you come and learn those new, different cultures, and you see a different way of life, you really do get to open up your mind.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Were there traditions or experiences your parents had that felt very different from your friends here in America?
Oh yeah, for Christmas, how everybody gets presents. Yeah, we ain't doing none of that, and that's okay. That's okay, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, you feel jealous because like y'all getting all these presents. Your birthday is heavy over here. Over there, it's kind of like you just living. And I feel like not having those things, not being pampered and whatnot. Yes, to some people it can seem not good, but at the end of the day, it just helped me be more grateful for the actual connections that I have in life, and it didn't feel so transactional. And I think that's how it should be. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that question?
It was were there any traditions or experiences your parents had that felt very different from your friends here in America?
Yeah, I just feel like, just like how here I feel like a lot of kids are supported and like their parents are in their corner 24/7.
Yeah.
But like coming here and my parents always having to work to bring to the table for everyone, you're kind of more individual.
Yeah.
And then that's where the culture aspect of the American culture aspect kicks in, because now we're living that individual life where we have to fend for ourselves, provide for ourselves, and do all that. And don't get me wrong, my parents, they do everything. But like here, a lot more kids, they get a lot. Like he said, for birthdays and all that. Like a birthday, we do a celebration, but there's no presents.
Yeah,
there's no.
It's the. I think I wouldn't blame her for real. It's the way they were brought up, so they know that.
Yeah, and
that way.
Growing up, you look at it and it's like, wow, you feel kind of disconnected. But then once you realize that African parents and American parents have different ways of showing love, and like once you can see the ways that they show love, you do feel loved, and you do feel, for sure you feel pampered and cared for. It's just in a different way.
Yeah. I think our parents show up just in a different way, not in gifts, not in all that, but they'll be there. If you got a problem, they'll ask you. If you got a problem, they'll solve it.
Yeah, and
if you need help with something, they'll help you fix it.
Yeah, if I'm ever caught up in something wrong, or if something ever goes wrong in life, I know 100% my mom and my dad will be in my corner.
Yeah.
They'll never leave me to fend for myself.
Yeah.
And another beautiful thing about it is just brutally honest. If you mess up, you gonna know you messed up. There's no sugarcoating nothing. You messed up, and you gonna learn that you messed up, and that discipline aspect. It helps you later in life. At first, it's like, why me? But then and then you see it down the line, and it's like, okay, this helped, because as you go through school, as you go through your relationships, you're more disciplined. You have a different perspective.
Yeah,
and it definitely helps. I'm not saying that American culture is not disciplined, but that's a good cornerstone of African culture. I feel like it can get out of hand. I'm not saying it can't, but it helps.
Okay. So how many times would you say you've been whooped?
Oh Lord, man! It and it even have to be your own parents in Africa. If you mess up, you mess up. You gonna know, and it's one too many times. Too many times to count, even. And I'm not saying that was not a normal thing. It just I messed up, and one has to learn how to take accountability. And the cultural norm there is you get a whooping, and that's just how that goes.
Yeah. How about you? How many times have you been whooped? If you remember.
I've escaped a couple times, but one core whooping memory that stuck with me was when. So my parents had a bunk bed and their bed in the same room, so we would sleep. I think I would sleep on the top and you'd sleep on the bottom, right? Yeah. So I had top bunk, my brother had bottom bunk, and then my parents' bed was right next to ours. And being the acrobat that I am, I'd like to, flip from the top bunk onto my parents' bed. And then one day, I had flipped, and I smacked my head on the light, and it completely shattered.
Whoa.
The way my mom walked into that room, oh my gosh.
I remember that day like it was yesterday.
Oh my gosh. The most fearful I've ever been. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I remember the whoopings, man. They were not fun, honestly. Like I remember mine too. And my mom would warn me like in the morning, be like, hey, When I come back in the house, I better find you in the house. You done done dishes, you done clean the house, and you done done your homework too. Yeah. But I better not find you out there playing. Bro, it's one day. Bro, that's the thing though. We broke the rule every time. Mm-hmm. So I remember one time I went out playing. I'm like, so I'm used to my mama getting off work, like she be coming home around 7, right? So it's at 4 p.m. Kids are off school, whatever. I'm like, man, I'm gonna go out there and play soccer for a little bit. Then by the time it hits like 6, I'm gonna go home, clean up and all that, and then just sit down. That day my mom came home at 5, bro.
Oh Lord, that was
she can. And if you have an African man,
what you know about that? What do you know about that, man?
No, I'm gonna tell you something they do. If they know they want you, they're not gonna say it in public. They're just gonna look at you and walk straight to the house.
Oh man, and you know,
and you know your mistake, so you're gonna come in the house just crawled up, crunched up. You know your mistake. You're like, you're trying to squeeze in onto the couch. You're like,
I hope nothing happens to me.
Yeah, sitting down and just waiting to see what happens. Man, I'm telling you, when my mom was whooping me, she would make a playground. She moved that table, and she was sneaky too.
That's a gulag right there.
She moved that table. You know, I'm already finna be whooped or whatever. Yeah. But she's so sleek. She moves it. She stopped mopping the floor. You're like, oh, she cleaning up. Then she go outside to spill the water or whatever. She then went for a whooping stick or something.
Switch.
Man, I'm telling you, when she comes back, it's a playground in our house. She locks the door. You can't go nowhere.
Oh, that door lock.
I was being whooped, bro.
That lock flip. Man.
It's the one thing I can never forget about discipline, bro. That's for sure.
And you can't forget that left hand. So silent and quick. Oh my gosh.
Man.
Oh my gosh.
They should hold an Olympic event for that shit.
It's like they had a school for training for that, for real. Yeah. And that's crazy, man.
African parent school, man.
For sure. I will never forget that, man. I'm telling you.
Cool memories, but
Yeah. Wow. How did your parents value about education, career, or family compared to typical American values?
I'll speak to that. Hey man, I graduated in a week. All right, and they value that. I'm gonna tell you, it's really valued because you don't have any opportunity back there, and when you come here, it's almost like a door. You just unlock your door. You know how they say you put your foot in the door? Well, you grow a big, gigantic foot, and you just put that in the door. And that's what I did. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm still doing and will continue to do. But it's very valued. Education is big. And as soon as you finish your education, you get your job, whatever you want. You can do whatever you want afterwards. Freedom is yours.
Yeah.
But again, you need to build that foundation.
For sure.
You can't build a house. You can't build, how a house is on a 6-inch slab, right?
Yeah.
Right? A little 6-inch slab, whatever it is. 6 foot, I don't care. But at the end of the day, you can't try to build the Empire State Building on a 6-foot slab. It's not going to work. You got to build a huge foundation.
For sure.
That's just how that goes. What you got to say about that?
For me, education in this household is very, very important. I don't think there's a day or a conversation that I have with my mom or my dad where they don't bring up education and working hard. Just working hard in general. Here, you can make it in any way you want.
For sure.
As long as you make it, they're okay with it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a plan or a path that's not education and you're not taking it seriously, then education is a must. You get through the education. You go do what you need to do, and from there they're not going to question what you do. They know you have the discipline. They know you have the hard work to go get that money. Straight like that.
Okay. I like that. All right. So different question. Do you speak any African languages?
Yeah, me, I speak Ekewusi, but
what is that to any American friends of yours?
It's the Kizi tribe language.
Yeah, it's a lingo. It ain't got no English word for it.
You guys probably won't know what it is, but
I'll speak a little bit.
Ngakiore. Meaning what? Tell them.
Ngakiore means how are you?
Okay.
It's just just hearing my parents speaking it, hearing that when we first got here, that's all they'd speak.
And that's part of tradition that I think I kind of like it. Sometimes even if we are being modernized and sometimes we hate it, I love it. Yeah. Because they don't kill it. They speak it in the house. Yeah. It don't matter if you speak it, but at least if you can understand it, it's cool.
Yeah. And just knowing another language, it helps me understand other people.
For sure.
Other people from other cultures, the broken English,
Mhm.
I can understand perfectly. I can understand any broken English. It just helps me bridge cultures, and it
Mhm.
helps me communicate in ways that you can't communicate if you don't speak another language.
Yeah, so you gotta bring yourself down to understand them on their level.
I wouldn't say bring yourself down, but just speaking another language and knowing more than two sayings for one word,
Mhm.
perhaps,
Mhm.
just knowing different ways to say things.
Mhm.
I feel like it helps us connect with other cultures and see things through their point of view,
Yeah,
because we all come from somewhere different.
true, true.
Just to build on that, I mean, when you know different languages, just like Ernest said, you can relate, and I can relate to a lot of my Hispanic friends,
Mhm.
my Indian friends. They've been through similar, even my Asian friends, they've
Yeah.
been through similar things that we all have been through, and it's amazing because new people, new perspectives, and just knowing another language, it just opens another perspective and more doors for you, and it's great.
Oh, that's nice.
Can't
That's nice.
complain. Yeah, go ahead.
And we don't mean to like single out by race or divide by race,
Mhm.
but the way the American culture is built and the way the system is, that's what we have to do.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't. We are all Homo sapiens, and we're all humans.
Mhm.
We should not be treated any different. We should all
For
have
sure.
the same opportunities. We should all be able to do everything that everyone does.
Yeah.
But because of the society we live in, things aren't that way.
Yeah, it ain't fair, but if somebody can understand you, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, just having someone who can see a thing from your point of view
Mhm.
when no one else can
Mhm.
goes a long way. 100%.
Oh yeah, it helps
Goes
a
long
lot,
way.
a lot. Oh wow.
Oh, and by the way, I can speak Ekwusi as well, Kisi, tribal language. Maybe I can understand a little bit of Swahili. By the way, I can do some shit. I can do some damage. At the end of the day,
Tell 'em,
I'm
say
gonna
something.
tell you what it
Say
is.
something.
Okay, watch. Ernest said not good, right? I'll even take it a step further. Not good. And Jim Gorogu, Anokmoindi. That means how you doing? My name's Anokmoindi. You know what I'm saying? Like it goes
Nah.
a long way. And a little bit of your personality. It might feel like you might have different personalities when you speak different languages. I think it's actually proven by scientific research or whatever. So don't quote me on that though. Just saying.
But I think that's a good point because I think most times when I receive a phone call and I'm speaking, people be so amazed or I think it's the love of a different language or how somebody pronounce some different words, and they be like, they want to hear what I'm saying. They trying to understand what I'm saying. So whenever I'm done with the phone call, they're like, "What was that you were saying? Can you say that to me?" I'm like, if I say it to you, you won't understand it. But
the same.
most people like to try to learn it for sure.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I say is the Swahili. Most people try and tell me to teach them Swahili, but I'd be like, I can teach you one word for the Kenyan word, but they can say something different to you, meaning the same thing, and you won't understand it.
100%. Yeah. And one thing that I've found, like in different languages, because I speak a little bit of Spanish, not a lot, but poquito. I say,
Okay.
and then Ekwusi, I found that a lot of the words, like some of the words actually have the same meaning. Like mesa, that's table.
That's stable.
And mesa,
Ah.
it's crazy,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'll even build on that. I go to the gym. I'm not gonna lie. It you can see it. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I've actually met a white person who happened to have Kisi friends back in the day, and he literally came up behind me and he was like, "Do you eat amatoke?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it'd be surprising. It'd be surprising
I
a
was
lot of times.
I was like, hold on, how do you even know about this, sir?
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I have Kisi friends, and I'll give it up. Bro's name is Tim, but it's cool to see that people are actually connecting on that level.
Yeah.
It's bridging cultures, and we're so separated here because we always like to generalize and say, oh,
And I think the problem might be the misconceptions that people have about Africans sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Stereotypes.
Oh, stereotypical things. Yeah.
right. And it's that division. That's what this country kind of thrives on. Unfortunately, it's those systems they're created to divide, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but we have to fight and we have to unify against that to make a difference.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I think a lot of Americans, they love the African, not really only Africans, they love different cultures. Because I think I've met somebody else too at work, and they was like, where are you from? I'm like, Kenya. And most people assume everybody from Africa, they're from Ghana or Nigeria for some reason. I don't know why.
Right.
But we started talking and all that, and then he mentioned samosa. I'm like, how do you know samosa? I'm like,
I can relate.
I'm like, how did you know samosa? He was like, I had a friend back in the day. We used to work in the same place, man. I loved when she used to cook every time. She used to bring this food, man. I'm like, how did you like it? You're like, man, every time she was cooking, I was like, can you bring me some next time?
Hell yeah.
I'm like, okay. They love the African culture, the African food. And I think most people, if you've had Americans who've participated or attended either African parties, the one that I've gone to is, I forgot the city or the state, but it was an African guy who used to hold, you know how Fridays people go to the club? Yeah. For him, he used to hold out like cooking outside, grilling and all that. There was music outside. Like they could come outside and drink. You would get, forgive me, this is not being racist, but I'm just trying to bring the point home. White people would come over. They get off work. Man, the first thing they do, go home, change, come over here, sit down, have stories, drink beer, eat. They was friendly as hell. I'm like, this is the type of community that I want.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if y'all have eaten chapati. It's a staple, you know. I introduced it to some of my homies, you know, when we used to wrestle, and they love it. Still to this day, they ask me, it's like, when is your mom gonna make that? I need it. You know, and I've been to this day. Matter of fact, I might even ask my mom to make a batch. Like I said, my mom's a good cook. She holds it down, and the fact that people love her food that much, it really goes to show how inspirational it can be.
Oh yeah,
it's you're bringing people together through your own cooking. You can't tell me that's not cool. That's amazing.
That's cool. You're creating one community from food culture.
Yeah, I feel like these stereotypes, they break down a lot of the true narratives of cultures, because I feel like people should judge off the mind and the heart, you know, because once you get to know, because there's been numerous times where two people don't like each other, but a simple conversation is all it takes to bridge that gap and bridge that culture. Yeah.
Yep. That's true.
It goes a long way. 100%. Just talk, communicate. You know what they say in relationships? Communication is big.
Actually, the next question was, what role has traditional African foods play in your life growing up? Oh, your all spoke about it. So.
You know, the staple. We're gonna talk about the staple, ugali and zuguma, or any kind of greens for the matter. I'm gonna tell you, ever since I was born, that's what I've been eating and will continue to eat into my lifetime to this day.
So you prefer that over a burger?
Hell yeah, 100%. Because it's healthy for you for one. Two, simple to cook. You get your nutrients in, and it gives you actual energy. You don't feel like you're gonna pass out. You don't feel heavy.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it just gives you
energy a lot.
Yeah, it gives you an avenue. People are just like, what? People always ask me again at the gym. It's like, what do you eat? And I'm like, traditional African food, 3 meals a day. That's all you need. I mean, if you look at him, he's an acrobat, right?
I feel like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna go with my mom's cooking. I don't want to go out and eat. And my mom always says,
she makes sure
all that money you're spending outside to go eat, give it to me. I'll go buy groceries and go cook.
And she'll make something
she'll throw down.
Dig your fingers into, man.
Beef, chicken. Oh my god, chapati, mandazi. Oh my, the list goes on and on. The list goes on and on. Bro.
It's the way you transitioned in between from English to Kisii words.
You see, it just slips out sometimes. It just slips out.
Yeah,
but
that's a good thing. You're emulating your traditions, man. It's cool.
Food is fire.
100%
comes down to.
Okay.
Y'all got if y'all seeing this and you haven't tried it, get out there and talk to some more Kenyan people. They'll put you on. We Kenyans are, we're pretty inviting for the most part. I'm not gonna
even Nigerians, fufu.
Man, try everyone's food and talk to everybody. They'll put you on with some game. It's great.
True. Did you ever feel pressure to Americanize your eating habits, fashion, or lifestyle choices?
I feel like the thing that I had to Americanize the most, I feel, was my fashion, because certain ways of dressing aren't really like not allowed, but it's not culturally accepted here. It's not a social norm, you know, because right now I think what is going, the streetwear is I think what's like known right now. Right now is like streetwear, but if I was to pull up in a traditional shirt, everyone's gonna bat an eye. Because it's just not normal. It's not culturally accepted. If you go to Africa and you pull up and you have that street in what is it, Nairobi?
Mhm.
They have their own streetwear, and they do the same thing that they do in America.
Yeah.
And that's that culture bridge that the culture has been
Bridging,
bridged.
yeah.
But if you go to Africa and Nairobi and you're wearing slacks, you know, no disrespect, but the casual like white male
Mhm.
attire, everyone's gonna bat an eye. It's just not normal. It's not culturally acceptable.
I mean, that's considered an how would I say, a corporate world outfit for most times. Yeah.
It's not even just the outfits, it's the haircuts. You know, you show up in Africa with dreads and oh my goodness, it's not going to be a good response. Most of them, they're going to tell you to cut it down, and you're going to have to because you have no choice. You're going to feel pressured.
Yeah.
But then you come here and you have that short African cut. Everyone's like, what's going on? Why are you bald? And when I first came here, I always used to get the good old standard bald African cut, and boy, was I clowned. And I even grew out dreads at some point, and to this day, I'm still keeping it short. I'm still keeping it to my roots. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Just do you.
Okay.
Forget about other people's opinions.
All right. What is one African value or principle you think you could share with Americans? Like teach them.
What do you mean by that?
Like an African value. Like, how do I say? It can be a tradition thing. It can be the way of living that you can share with somebody in America.
I got it. Yeah. Just work hard and remember your family. That's my biggest principles. You know, again, we're very community oriented, but like I said, here everything's individual. You know, once you move out or whatever, right? There's a whole moving out thing right as you leave high school for some people, whatever. And I get it. Housing dynamics might be toxic, you know, and it might be tough on the mental, understood. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's all about that family. I'm personally not going to put my mom in a nursing home or my dad in a nursing home. Most Africans are going to tell you, hell no, that's not happening. So that's what I want to keep true. And also just giving back to your family. You know, they brought you up. Why not bring them up too in the process? You can't forget. Don't forget.
Yeah, like he said, everything here is just very like individualized. I feel like if people here had more of community sense, I feel like it could bring them a long way.
True.
Because in Africa, you're walking on the street, you're gonna talk to about 5-6 people on the way to the store.
Yep.
It's hard.
Yep.
But here, people have their headphones in. They don't bat an eye. They don't look at you. No wave. No hi. No nothing. And I feel like that's what separates a lot of us, just not wanting to talk to anybody.
Yeah, and I think there was a lady who came from, I think, Ghana. And I think it's the same thing happened to grandma too. The lady came, you know how Africa, if you step outside the house, you can find your neighbors outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone's you can just say, hey, y'all can start telling stories and all that. This lady, she said she practiced that for 5 days. She was sitting outside her house. You know how dead it is out here?
Yeah. Yeah, when grandma came, the first thing she told me, she sat me down outside and she told me, I hate America.
She told me that I think the second week.
Yeah.
Because she was trying to go out there during the day, sit down. She doesn't see nobody.
We were sitting down in the back, view straight to the street. She was like, where's everybody?
Yeah.
In Etumbe, people are walking down the streets. Piggies are coming, you know. It's like, it's like, what is this? And then I was like, yeah, I mean, that's what it's like in America.
It's a lonely life, honestly. Like, there's no socialization easily.
Yeah, there's better opportunity, I will say that. But
for sure, if you keep
for everything that you gain here, you lose something.
Yeah, but for that part though, there's no life right there. Conversely, is there something you appreciate about American culture that you think could be embraced more back in Africa?
Letting your kids be themselves, letting people be themselves, you know.
Hey, you say that like...
No. I'm not saying my parents are like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I've seen so many dynamics where the kids aren't allowed to be them. You know, they have a certain hairstyle. Now you're a failure. You are a failure. You will never make it. Come on. Like, why?
You gotta graduate somebody, bro?
Hey, no. I'm just saying, I've seen it. I'm just not saying that this happened to me, you know, because thank God my parents are a little bit more open and understanding about that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to let your people be the people because nobody's trying to grow up in a way that someone else envisioned for them. That just never works out in most instances. Why not grow in the way that you want to grow? Achieve your goals. Because you might have talents that you never thought of, right? Why be restricted all the time? It's not going to help. So I just wish people were more allowed to be themselves, just being accepted, that whole thing. But besides that, African culture is all about community and togetherness. That I love. So yeah. What was the question again?
Well, the question was conversely. It was pretty much like the same thing. We said, what is one African value or principle you think you could share with Americans? Like teach them. So it was conversely like, is there something you appreciate about American culture that you think could be embraced more by Africans?
One thing that changed dramatically was the way that we used our words and the way that we communicated. I feel like as we've stayed in America and as we've developed as people, you know, we've learned how to use our words more and communicate when we feel a type of way, you know?
Yeah.
When we first came here, you know, you couldn't. What mom or dad says goes, and you can't say anything.
Yeah.
But now, you know, if you disagree, you can say you disagree, and you can talk about why. It's not just
one way.
Yeah, it's not just one way. It's not one route. There's multiple passageways.
Yeah.
And I'll even build on that. It feels like there's a lot more. There can be a lot more empathy here. You know, a lot more room for improvement. You're not just being told that you suck. You know, I'm not saying that that's what it is, but sometimes it's what it feels like. So when you have that openness, you're able to do what you got to do, and you can actually communicate about your feelings and move up, then you're great. You're not going to hold a grudge for 20 years. It's great, you know, and that's, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Having spoken about all this, in your opinion, I'm not saying it's something that it's a must, but in your opinion, where would you like to spend more time? Is it back home in Africa or the United States?
For me, I'm gonna have to say here because I have spent a decent chunk of my life here, even though the culture still runs deep in me, and like I just feel like here I've spent more time here. I've gotten accustomed to the American culture, and I feel like if I were to go and try to live the lifestyle back home, I could definitely adjust, but I feel like it'd be a lot harder to adjust than already being here and staying here, because here we have everything built for us. You know, we've been here it's been a long time.
Almost 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
All my assets, everything that we've built here, you know, if you go back there, they kind of just disappear.
Yeah,
and you kind of have to start from zero.
Yeah.
And I'll even build on that. I'll just say that personally, I would probably go back if I could. I still feel like I'm not generally accepted here fully.
Okay.
I'm still trying to adjust to the dynamics of American culture. And there's a lot of times where I'll even go to a function, I'll just be quiet, and that's on me. That's something that I still need to improve and build on. But more often than not, I just, you know, back there I can just do my thing and still be accepted in a way. I know I'm going back and forth, but here there's a lot more of those. There's a lot more judgment. You know, everybody's like, you're not cool. You know, there's these, except that word cool itself can be very toxic.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that separation, those cliques that are formed in high school and just in school throughout. You know, they say that it ends in high school, but it actually sticks throughout life. That's how I feel like, because there's these groups, there's these cliques, there's this even money. You know, that's a whole thing within itself. There's classism. It exists. So maybe just being more unified. That'd be nice. Yeah.
Thank you for that response. You know, after that, I'm just gonna go ahead and change my answer. You know, I was thinking more like asset wise, and like that way. But like if we're talking about people and community, 100%, 10 out of 10 times I'm going back home. Because now that I think about it, even if I am starting from zero, the community will be there to help
for support.
It's for support, and I'll be able to become just as successful, you know.
Okay. Oh wow.
I mean, look, we're Africans on a podcast. Wouldn't think that would happen. So what can I take?
Okay, I like that.
Come on, man. Come on, for real.
All right. Okay, on to the last question. If you had to recommend an African tradition and one American tradition to the world, which one would you pick and why?
That's a tough one. An African tradition, man. You know, I'll let you take this one for now. Yeah. There's a lot of things in tradition.
It's a great question, actually, because there's just so many things that you can actually choose from. But for me, an American tradition, I'm gonna have to stick with, not tradition, but like social concept. I'd say is communication, because in Africa, you can't really, like I said before, you can't really communicate how you feel. There's one path, and you have to stick to that path.
And I think sometimes it's being considered being rude. It's not even being like it's your opinion.
Yeah, you can't even voice how you feel.
Yeah.
Or you can't voice anything, because anything that goes against what they feel is instant disrespect.
Okay.
And I'll even go on top of that. Like, I've actually experienced it with some Kenyans here, weirdly enough, but not my family. It's just external. You know, people, when you go through college, you meet people, but it's that whole, I'm older than you, so I know more than you. And I
think people push that out of perspective, honestly.
Yeah, and I think I'll be straightforward and blunt. It's stupid. Because at the end of the day, like, you can be 40 years old and not have emotional intelligence. Yeah. You know, you can be 40 years old and not know how to manage your money. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, does your age really gauge your maturity? Not necessarily. It doesn't. It's just how you came up, who you surrounded yourself with, and what you chose to do with what you came up with. So that whole entire thing, I just wish that it would just go away. But, you know, that takes time and patience, honestly.
We'll have to see. Yeah.
An African tradition that I say needs to, not tradition, but more socially accepted construct is discipline. 100%. You know, in America, I feel like kids are not disciplined enough. I feel like there's certain things that if they were done in Africa, the things that are done here, if they were done in Africa, it would be the end.
Serious whooping.
It'd be the end.
It would have been a fight.
It would have been the end. You're never to be seen again.
It would have been a fight.
And then just people here, I just feel like they just don't have, like, not everybody, but like there's those people who just think it's their way or no way.
Yeah, it's my way or the highway. I hate that statement.
It's stupid. Yeah,
it's ego driven.
Ego driven. My opinion can be easily swayed. If you make a good point, you can 100% sway my opinion. Yep. You just gotta sit there and listen. And I hate people who don't listen. It's just, why am I speaking to you if you don't want to consider my point of view? Yeah.
And also, when it comes to discipline, an African thing is, I wouldn't say you're necessarily judged for being a nerd. You're praised for it. You know, if you are on your stuff and you're always looking to learn more, they love that, because they're like, look at this kid. He's educating himself. You know, he's wanting to get better. But then when you try to do that here, you're made fun of. It's like, he's a fucking nerd. It's like, come on. Like, nobody needs to hear that. Like, why am I being criticized for wanting to know more and be better? That's some BS. So at the end of the day, if people could be a lot more open to just, you know, not being closed, that'd be awesome. But, you know, that's too much to ask for, I guess.
One step at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Little baby steps, by the way. Still taking them.
All right, guys. We were spoken for a long time, and with that being said, I think this will be the end of it. Until next time, you guys have a nice one.
Hold on now. We're going to flip the script. Brian, since you came to America, right?
Okay. Now I'm the interviewee. Okay.
You know, since you came to America, you know, you talked about your soccer dreams to me earlier, and, you know, that made me feel some type of way. I played soccer.
Not soccer. It was basketball.
My bad.
Yeah.
Basketball. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But basketball. He played sports back then. And if you could go back, what is one thing that you wish that you could change, or that could be changed for you? Like, what is one moment that you look back at and you're like, dang, did this hold me back? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think the one thing that I'll change for sure is my coach, my games coach, honestly. He's the one who held back, I think, my dream for sure. I was so good in basketball and all that, and I was almost being coached or being poached by university. And he canceled that idea completely. He smashed it down. And then I think after leaving that, I went back to school. You know how, like, a student, you're like, I want that opportunity. But now you don't have no contact for nobody. Yeah. I never had the chance to practice that again.
Now, do you think that that's a African thing? That
it is an African thing. It's the same thing you say, just because you think you are old, you're not the final decision.
Right. And like I said, it's full circle. It affects everybody.
Yeah, you're not the entire like that thing we say, it's my way or the highway. The kid's opinion is not perceived or taken into consideration.
Yep. And it holds a lot of people back because you're living someone else's dream or jealousy. A lot of the times, I've seen it, African culture, you know, they want you to be better and do better. But then when you get there, there's some level of jealousy, and it's actually all cultures.
And I think it cuts across too. It cuts across. Yeah.
It cuts across all cultures. People want you to be right. Right here with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then once you go a little bit higher, then jealousy starts to play,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just try to bring you down with them, down to the level.
They want you to do good, but not better than them.
Right. And honestly, like, even how I've grown up, I want my siblings to be better than me. I hope they are better than me. I hope that they learn from the things that I went through, and that they're able to create a better future than I am.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, I'm still trying as hard as I can to make shit happen and to be a good example. But at the end of the day, I hope they're able to capitalize, see how I did it, and do even better, even do it a different way. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I never like to end things on a serious note. So how long did you live in Africa?
Boy, I'm on the spotlight right now. Okay. I've been in Africa for roughly 22 years.
22 years. And how long have you lived in America?
In America, I've been here for roughly 6 to 7 years.
6 or 7 years. All right. So based on your experiences, how would you compare African/Kenyan women to the standard, typical American woman?
That's a good one.
This is a bad spotlight. Okay. I'm going to give it the way it is. I'd say I'd still consider the African women for sure. Absolutely. At any day, anytime. Though we got girls or women, I should say, they borrowing the Western culture right now. Those aspects of, if you don't make me a wife, I shouldn't behave like a wife, is still kicking in. So it's kind of spoiling the broth right now.
Yeah,
for sure. It's spoiling the market and everything. But women know it in the back burner. They know their roles. They just want to play the Western culture game.
I'll take that, Mike. Now, what do you think that comes down to? Do you think it's social media? Do you think it's changing cultural norms? Like, of course, there's a lot of factors at play, but what is one thing you could pinpoint it down to?
I'll pinpoint down to social media for sure. And I think it's affecting a lot of things. For me, the one thing that I faced before I came over was that slogan of "my dress, my choice." It was so popular and it was messing up things now.
I'll be honest. One big thing that I personally don't agree with is the hate on men. I'll be real. There's women out there who can do extremely dangerous and vile things, and there's dudes out there who do extremely vile and dangerous things, right? True. But you're a hypocrite if you tell me that all men are bad. Because that's not the case. There's good brothers out there and good sisters out there, and I can't say all women are bad either.
No,
right? And men's mental health is not talked enough.
I spoke about that too. I spoke about that too in an episode, and it's so bad. The problem is, it's not even a problem. Men are so used to not expressing themselves; they would rather die with their problems. Women are so used to expressing themselves so often; it's not a problem to them no more.
And that's just how cultural norms work. Women are taught, you can let out your emotions, but man, you got to be tough, hard, strong. Cool. But at the end of the day, you hold that thing in. 20 years down the line, you're going to be rethinking life in a terrible way.
True.
And I'm not going to sit here and act like I've been positive all my life. Nope. My mental health was low at some point. I'm not going to sit here and lie, And it just wasn't taught. There was no support system. You just had to figure it out on your own. And thank God for YouTube, because without that resource, my goodness, don't know where I would be. I'm just being real.
But I'd like to, I shrugged. But anyway, I'd like to give props to women who are supportive to their men. There's women who are here. They already know men go through so much, and they're so supportive with it. So it's not about me. What about him? For women who are doing that, I applaud you for that for sure. Receive your flowers.
Amen. And like I said, it's that generalization piece. You can't think that everybody's bad, because then you're going to block your blessings. But at the end of the day, you do have to consider the people that you hang around with and what they say. Because oftentimes what people say, at first it might not seem hurtful, but your subconscious is a very powerful thing. And that's why your mental health, the brain, like, fuck the gym. Okay, the gym's great. That's great for your physical health, great for your mental, perfect. But when we actually talk about the real mental health, if you're not good in the head and you work out, no amount of vitamins,
it ain't gonna help.
Nothing's gonna shape. Nothing's gonna work. And that's why I say, like, the women that support their people, great. Anybody that supports anybody in a relationship,
Mhm.
awesome. Good on you. And we need a lot more of that. I feel like that's slowly going away. Hookup culture, whatever it is, but
Mhm.
to each in their own. To each in their own.
I feel like it 100% goes both ways. You know, there's
Mhm.
men who do women dirty,
Yeah.
and there's women who do men dirty.
Mhm.
It's just one big cycle. You know, one woman does a man dirty, or vice versa. A man
Mhm.
does a woman dirty.
No, it's a
That-
label of
yeah,
the
mhm.
the entirety.
That hurt man or woman will go on to the next man or woman
Mhm.
and do them dirty. You know, it's one big cycle of hurt people trying to get their get back. I feel,
Yeah.
but if we just focused on ourselves and try to better ourselves as people and learn about ourselves and our emotions, because that's one thing I feel isn't done, especially with men.
Mhm.
You know, they don't learn how they feel and why they feel that way. You know, I feel
That's
like
because they're not taught to. Because
Yeah.
from a kid, okay, let me ask you a question. From a kid growing up, you've been taught how to treat a woman.
yeah.
If
I
you
know
ask
how
the
to-
girls out here, do you think they're being taught how to treat men?
no,
I don't think
They're only being taught how to be treated by men. That's it.
and that's not gonna say and lie. That's so true, because at the end of the day, we are always taught to provide. And yes, as a dude, provide. Do what you got to do,
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that you should be put on the back burner.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that your emotions don't matter. Because at the end of the day, let's talk about the divorce rate. Why is it at 50%? We don't talk about that enough, right? And that's the thing. One good quote that I have, actually not even a quote, one thing I read about in a book is it's all about how you approach life. You know, some people when life comes and it hits them straight in the face,
Mhm.
you know, are you gonna let it push you around? You know, some people choose to fight back.
Yep.
You can fight, right? But there's people who do nothing and just sit there. Cool, fine. And then there's people who learn from it.
Mhm.
I think if you approach it from a learning perspective and not having that ego
Mhm.
and just saying, hey, I'm not perfect. Because I'm not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect.
Mhm.
You're probably not going to agree with my viewpoints. And that's fine. Personally, I don't care. That's cool. So, and I might not agree with your opinions, but that doesn't mean I'm going to like not, consider you at the
Yeah.
end of the day. Like it's okay to disagree. Just do it respectfully. That's
Mhm.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're out there and you're hurting, go learn about yourself. Do you and get better as a person, because at the end of the day,
Get a goddamn hobby.
yeah, at the end of the day, this is your life. It's not nobody else's life. You just gotta do what you gotta do to make it through, man.
Let me ask y'all a question. Why did y'all come up with that question
Which one? We came up with
about women?
That was a question.
we're at our stage in our lives, right? Where we have to. I'll take the mic. Yeah, shoot. We're at a stage in our lives where we, I'm graduate. Like I said, I'm about to graduate college in literally a week, right? And what's next in life for me? I'd like to have relationships at some point. Something meaningful, and that's something that I have to think about. I can't sit here and act like it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
So. I feel like it's good to address it and talk about it, especially here,
Mhm.
because then I have to truly be honest with myself. I know damn well if I'm put on the spot, I can't just BS it. I'm right here, right now. You're getting the
Yeah.
real me.
Yeah.
And if we address it now, then at least the people who are listening can also widen their perspectives. And my biggest quote to myself, again, I have a lot of quotes. I'm a quote guy. Okay, if you conversate with me enough, you'll know most of my conversation it sounds like I'm just quoting shit. But at the end of the day, my biggest thing is aspire to inspire before you expire.
Yeah.
And that's what I always want to do. Okay, I don't care what it is. I love technology, and I hope a lot of people are inspired from what I do from it, and I hope they do better. That's why I hope my siblings do better. Shoot, anybody that hangs around me, I hope I leave a positive impact, and I hope that you do better in life. That's always been my biggest hope. And even if you did me dirty, shit, I still wish the best for you, because life is so short,
For sure.
Yeah, you speak on that.
Me personally, I brought that topic up because especially in the college life, people are, I don't want to say grimy, but you see how people really are once you hit college. There you can do whatever you want, and who's gonna say anything to you? You're in your own world, you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just. Yeah, I just had to get your viewpoint on that because as a older guy who's lived both in Kenya and America, it's good to see how both sides are.
It's a lot. The more you grow, you'll know.